Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in today. Again, we're going to do another top 10 most listened to records from a different genre. This is going to be basically jazz fusion. There's a couple of hard bops in here, but for the most part, my name's Ron Beaudry, Rockin' Ronnie, for the folks that don't know. And I like rock and roll. But in about 73 or so, 74, the music kind of turned. This is when disco started getting in on all the top 40 stuff. And folks had to start going into a different types of music. And that's when I discovered the jazz. But that's kind of the fusion jazz is what I got into, because there's a lots of, it's with fusion between rock and jazz, or funk and jazz. And so the first record that I ever bought, because I was selling hi-fi gear at the time, and I had a customer come in and he wanted to know if I'd ever heard of Donald Byrd before. And I said, no, I haven't heard of it. We were talking about music and I was kind of complaining about this night. He said, well, you need to check this guy out. He's really good. And this record had just come out. So he reckoned this is the record that I bought from Opus. There's a record store in Winnipeg where you could get import records. Of course, this is an import from the US. And this is a kind of a jazz funk fusion record. And there's a lot of personnel on the record. You've got, of course, Donald Byrd on trumpet. You've got tenor sax, trombone, vibes, guitar, 3 guitarists, piano. You got Joe Sample from the Crusaders is on here on the organ. And I thought there was, Bobby Hutcherson on the vibes. Yeah, so this is a really cool record. And it's kind of a breakout record. This is a kind of a sound that people weren't used. This is a new kind of a sound here. This kind of broke some ground for that fusion funk jazz stuff. And then I went and I purchased the reissue that was remastered by Kevin Gray, all analog, and then they pressed it over in Optimal. And I should probably do a shoot out of this record. Well, we all know the Kevin Gray one's better, so there's not much point, right? And then the next record that I bought, that was the first jazz record I bought. And then that fella also recommended this. He said, you need to go and check out a guy called Chick Corea. Chick Corea plays the electric piano, the acoustic piano, the organ, the harpsichord, and congas. And then you got a guy called Stanley Clarke on here, who's probably the best, modern jazz bass player, in my opinion, anyway. And he plays electric bass, he plays fuzz bass, and I have another record that we're going to talk about. He plays the upright bass, acoustic bass as well. Then you got Bill Connors on guitars, acoustic and electric, and Lenny White on the drums. And all of these people, Bill Connors on the electric guitar, everybody is a standout. Chick Corea is a phenomenal keyboard player. Stanley Clarke, like I said, he's probably the best bass player there is. Then you got Bill Connors, who's phenomenal on the guitars on this, and Lenny White. Everybody loves him on the drums. So a lot of people, they really love this record. And then I think the next one I bought, I think he recommended this too. I should check out this Billy Cobham guy. And this is another fusion record. And of course I got this on the Japanese first edition. And let me see about this. I think I made some notes. Yeah, that's right. So Billy Cobham, of course, is a drummer. He's fantastic. He's on a lot of really good jazz records. You'll see Billy Cobham's a drummer. Then you got Jan Hammer's on here on the keyboards. And then it's Bill Connors, or no, it's Tommy Bolin. Excuse me. Tommy Bolin is on the guitar on this thing. And I bought a couple of those solo Tommy Bolin records. They can't hold a candle to this guy on this record. He's like a guitar god on this record here. It's unbelievable the stuff, the guitar playing on here. And of course the drumming is fantastic. And the bass playing. And of course Jan Hammer, I mean, he just ups the ante for everybody because he's such a good player and he ups the game of everybody else that he plays with. It's just a fantastic record. Highly recommended. Then I think a record that's equal or maybe even better than the last one is this solo by Stanley Clarke. And this is also a Japanese original, but I don't have the, I don't have the obi on it. It didn't have the obi. So, right, so we've got a number of people on here, of course. Again, Stanley Clarke's on the bass. Jan Hammer is on the keyboards again. Tony Williams is on the drums. And this record, in my opinion, this is my favorite record with drums. This is the best drumming on any record that I've got, that I enjoyed the most on this. And their song is Lopsy Lou, I do believe. And then you got Bill Connors, like I was saying. Bill Connors on this record on guitar. And again, I've got a couple different Bill Connors solo records, and they're nowhere near the level of guitar god that's on this record. Because I think it's Jan Hammer again. He just elevates everybody to a new level when he's playing. Fantastic record. And then I think I heard some of this on the radio. Diodato. He's Elmar Diodato. He's a keyboard player. I'll show you the inside of the gatefold. Again, he's kind of like Bob James in a way. He has a lot of people on his records. Like on this one, you got John Tropia on the guitar, and John Tropia, when you hear him on these Diodato records, he is one of the most phenomenal guitar players there is. It's just amazing how good the guitar player he is on here. Then you got two bass players. You got Billy Cobham again on drums. Like I said, when you get a good jazz record, Billy Cobham shows up on them. And then you got congas. You've got three percussionists. You got six trumpet players. You got two French horns, two trombones, a tuba. You got six flute and saxophone players. You got a bunch of violins, viola, cello. You got a lot of orchestration on here, big production numbers, and just a phenomenal record. And the title track, Whirlwinds, wow, fantastic. One of my favorites. Again, these are all the most played. These records are all from like 72, 73, 74, 75, and that's where I got all these, and I played them the most of any of the jazz records that I have. Then we've got another Billy Cobham record that gets in here. This one is called Total Eclipse. And this is the jazz rock fusion, but now we're adding some horns, right? We got the Brecker brothers on the horns on this one, and Jan Abercrombie's on the guitar. And again, the guitar is so good on here. And you got Billy Cobham on the drums. You got the Brecker brothers on the trumpets. And then we've got some trombones on here, and you got flugelhorn, you got keyboards, timpani, all really, really good record. Highly recommend. This is one of the records I hadn't listened to it for a while, and I started to play it. I had to get up and dance and jump around because it's just so exciting, so great. It gets you going. Now this one's a little bit slower. This is a Stanley Clarke, a Chick Corea record, Return to Forever record, I should say. But it's not the usual lineup, right? It's not Lenny White on the drums. Instead, we've got Airtu Morin on the drums. Airtu Morin on the drums. We got Joe Farrell on the flute, right? And the saxophone. Flora Purim I can show you a picture of her on the back. She sings on his song. And that song 500 Miles High is one of my favorites of any. That's the top 10 song for me. Really love that song. Of course, Chick Corea is on the Fender Rhodes and he's on the piano, and Stanley Clarke again on the bass. So we've got a different drummer. We don't have the guitar playing on this one. We've got saxophone and we've got the flute instead. Fantastic, fantastic record. Love it. And then I went to Opus and this was on sale. And this had Donald Byrd. And so I was familiar with Donald Byrd. And but I hadn't heard of Hank Mobley or Duke Pearson or Dud Watkins or these other fellas yet. So it was on sale, and I said, well, that's Donald Byrd. I'm going to buy this and find out what all this is about. And this was the first time I ever heard hard bop. And the whole style where you've got the saxophone on one side, and then you've got the trumpet playing on taking his turn. Then they play together. Then you might have a piano solo, and then the trumpet again, and then they play together and all that. And it was so good. And I was just, enjoying this would really turn me on to the hard bop stuff. And I bought a lot of Donald Byrd records after that. And this is the reissue. I'm showing this is the nice reissue on the gatefold cover on the Tone Poets with the Stoughton jacket, remastered by Kevin Gray, plated and pressed at RTI. I wish they did them all like this. They're so gorgeous. And then we have an Analog Productions reissue. This is Herbie Hancock Headhunters. I bought this when it came out right at the beginning. And of course, it was only available on 33 at first. And so this is the one I have. This is reported to be, the 45 sounds even better. But after listening to the Columbia pressing for 45 years, and then I got this was so much better. I'm happy with this record. Again, this record was from 73, and it's the 12th record that Herbie Hancock ever produced. And this again is kind of a jazz funk fusion with there's a lot of different folks on this record as well, a lot of different players. And again, it comes on that nice Stoughton jacket, but it's not a gatefold. And we've got there's a fellow that plays a lot of those Latin percussion instruments on here. You got the saxophones, you got Herbie Hancock on the Rhodes and the Fender and the piano and the synthesizer, and you got congas and bass clarinet and alto flute, electric bass, and a lot of, but remember, it's a jazz funk fusion record. Really, really good. And beautifully done by Chad over at Analog Productions. And then the next record that I purchased, there was a group of them at that time. I think I probably bought about 7-8 records at the same time. They were on sale. And this was one of the ones, they were all Blue Notes. Joe Henderson and those types of folks. And this was the Lee Morgan record, the Sidewinder. And this was the one that I played the most of all those. Because everybody knows it's such a great record anyway now. I didn't have any idea back then. I was just lucky that I bought it on a nice reissue. And now, of course, I got it on the Classic series because, Kevin Gray remastered it. Sounds fantastic. And this is more... now this is... I see if it's the years on here. This is, to me, a more modern record. But I think it's still... It might be 2000, yeah. So this is the year 2000, Patricia Barber Nightclub. The sound on this record, it's You Are There stuff. And it's the piano, that she is such a fantastic piano player. And we've got bass on here. We've got the drummer's fantastic. We got guitars on here. And just a really good record. And they all take their time doing solos and such. And Patricia Barber has a very unique voice. And this is the only record I have by Patricia Barber. She's got a number of other ones out. But the guitar player on those other records, I don't like his style. So he kind of ruins all of it for me. When he starts what I call it the wounded whale guitar. You know what a wounded whale sounds like? That's the way he plays his guitar. I don't like that at all. This one was phenomenal. I've listened to it 100 times at least. So that's going to be my top 10 most played jazz fusion records. Like I say, I started out, bought the first one, and I just went kind of through the progression of the records that when I bought them, until the last few, of course, where it gets more spread out. So hope you all enjoyed the video. I'm going to try to make a video like every other day. I've got a couple other stacks of records I'm going to talk about, the kind of rare stuff. I got those videos in the works. And guess what I did? Yeah, I ordered the Cowboy Junkies record, right? And that's on the way. So I'm going to do the shootouts. So that shouldn't be too long. That should probably be by next week. I should be doing some more shootout videos. And thanks so much for watching, and bye for now.